How to create a stiffener in PractiCAD. The best way to get a stiffener inside PractiCAD is to simply import it from PractiCam. However, you can design them here. In order to design a stiffener, we must go into the library icon on the PractiCAD ribbon. We're going to open up our library and then come over to the left to our browser. We're going to scroll down till we get to accessories. We're going to hit the little plus key and then come down to where it says stiffener. We're going to click on the word stiffener. When we do that, PractiCAD is going to show you a drop-down menu of all your available stiffeners. You're also going to be given the opportunity to import your stiffeners from PractiCam. However, if you would like to be able to create a new one, you must come over to the left and click on the Create a New Item green check and click once. Once we do that, PractiCAD is going to ask you to name the stiffener. Here we're going to name it PCAD Stiffener and hit Enter. Now what we're going to do is select all the parameters we have on the top and bottom choices, and we'll go over them one at a time in the following tutorial. The first parameter we have is the option to choose our stiffener type. We can select between any one PractiCAD offers. Here you can see we have an angle type 1 on the drawing. We might switch it to an L bracket, and for much of this tutorial we're going to work with an I-beam type 1. We have channels, hats, Z-beams. Just look through your list of choices, select the one you want, and PractiCAD will display it in the preview. The length add parameter allows us to choose a value that will dictate how far the stiffener sticks out of either end of the fitting. For example, right now we have the length add parameter set at 0. That means that the stiffener is flush with the side of the duct. It is not sticking out at all. However, if we were to give a value here like 4 inches, that would mean that on either end of the fitting we have 4 inches of stiffener sticking out. The interference parameter makes sure that when you go to place stiffeners on the width and the depth of the fitting, that those stiffeners do not interfere with each other. The value you put in here will be the distance between the stiffeners on the depth from the stiffeners on the width. For example, if we were to put in the interference 6 inches and we were to put stiffeners on both the width and depth and measure the distance between them, you would know they are never closer than 6 inches. That is the value of interference. For example, we're going to exit out of this screen. And here on the drawing we have duct with the PCAD stiffener on both the width and the depth. And you can see here, looking in plan view, that the distance between the stiffeners on the width and the stiffeners on the depth is always going to be 6 inches or greater. That's the interference. It means nothing less than 6 inches is allowed in between two stiffeners on both width and depth. The next 3 parameters, the thickness, size, and growth, will control the overall appearance of the stiffener itself. Thickness means the thickness of the overall stiffener. Right now in the I-beam you've got 3 parts, the top, center, and bottom. And if we measured how big each of those parts were, they would be 1/4 inch thick. If we switch it to a 1/2 inch, now you'd have a 1/2 inch thick on each part. Then we've got size. The size parameter is basically going to control the width. Here we're rolling up with the wheel mouse. You can see that it's getting larger. Now we're going to roll down. It's going to get smaller. The growth would do the height. If we raise the growth, you can see the stiffener is getting taller. If we lower the growth, you can see the stiffener is getting shorter. So we choose our sizing parameters: thickness, size, and growth. The last parameter we currently have for the common parameters is the weight. PractiCAD is capable of calculating the weight of an entire duct line, and if you would like the stiffeners to be accounted for when you're calculating that weight, you would need to put in the weight for each stiffener. You can see if we go over to PractiCam, over here in PractiCam, looking at this external stiffeners, you can see here under common parameters that we have got the weight pounds per foot. And whatever we put here is the same number we'd want to put in our PractiCAD if we'd like to get the proper weight. The parameters we have on the bottom here are what we call the placement parameters in PractiCam. Here inside PractiCam you can see the placement parameters: has in, offset in, has out, offset Y, placement, and quantity. And we have the same ones inside PractiCAD. The first 4 we're going to cover is the has in and offset in, and the has out and offset out. Currently, we only have one stiffener in the center of the duct, quantity 1, as is notated right here by placement and quantity. However, we can also choose whether or not this stiffener type will get stiffeners on the in joint or stiffeners on the out joint. And all we have to do here is say if we want one on the in joint, has in yes, and it's going to appear. And after it appears, you can choose how far the offset's going to be from the in. Currently, it's set at a half an inch. However, if we move this to 4 inches, what it would do is it would move this stiffener 4 inches to the right, all the way to the end of the duct. Same thing with the has out. If we took has out and said yes, we would now get a stiffener right here on the end. You can see that the offset out is 0. We're now going to make it 6 inches. And that's going to move this 6 inches in the opposite direction down the fitting. So utilizing our has in, has out, and the offsets, we can choose where we'd like stiffeners on the in joints or the out joints. The offset Y parameter controls the center stiffener. If we were to move it up in value, positive numbers would move it away from the center to the right, and if we were to move it down negative values would move it away from the center to the left. We can simply put it at 0, which would normally be in the center line of the duct, or we could simply choose the value offset we would like to have. The last two choices we have for placement parameters is the choice of placement and quantity. And these two parameters work hand in hand. If we go to placement parameters, we currently have two choices in the drop-down menu, quantity and space. If you put it into the quantity method for placement, it means that we'll be asked for a quantity, and here we're going to pick 2, and it's going to take the center stiffener and put 2, and it will make sure that the distance between all of the stiffeners is equidistant between them. So based on the quantity number, obviously the spacing is going to be calculated. Number of stiffeners divided by the available free space. This is different than choosing the placement method space. When we do that, Practicad's simply going to ask us for the minimal spacing we need. And when that happens, and you can see it switched the parameter here, now we can choose whatever the minimal spacing is. If we were to say 2 feet, that means that the minimal spacing we should have is 2 foot. And we're going to get at least 2 foot between each stiffener, and it's going to replicate the stiffener from the center line out, making sure that we have no less than 2 foot of space between. So you can choose the quantity method for placement or the space method for placement.